Hello, hello. Welcome for another episode of the Author Spotlight. Hey, it's your host with the most, your man, Darren and Palmer. So excited to be with you for another episode where I get the privilege and the honor to be able to interview best-selling authors from across the globe who are making a difference locally and globally. Now, we're behind the scenes today with my girl, Jennifer Kleiber, and I'm so glad to have her on. I'm going to share a little bit about Miss Kleiber before we start this episode and have her come in. Jennifer Kleiber is a trainer, consultant, and coach for teachers as they navigate through the challenges of working with English learners, students of poverty, and other struggling students. She has a passion for empowering teachers with the knowledge they need to create and facilitate a thriving and successful classroom. In her years in education, Jennifer served as a middle school and high school teacher and then served as an ESL coach, working specifically with secondary skills. She has been a trainer for the past 7 years and has been working for her own company, Pressing Onward, for the past year. So I shared a little bit about Jennifer. Jennifer, if I left out anything, please fill in the gaps.
I think that about covers my background, and it was kind of my journey to get to where I am today. And excited to kind of share my new message. That is
awesome. Jennifer, I want to dive straight into it because I know some heard in your bio, your background and some of the things that you're doing now with your own company, but we're here too as well because you got this new book out. So if you don't mind, share with the audience the name of your book and why did you write this as your first book?
Okay, it is Building the Bridge from I Can't to I Did. It's culturally responsive teaching to move students from dependent learners into independent learners. I wrote this book because there is a group of kids, several groups of kids that our education system is not reaching. And the more that I worked with teachers, the more I worked with students, and I researched and dug into what the missing piece was, the more convinced I became that culturally responsive teaching held the solutions to empower teachers so that they could empower their kids. And so, again, the more I dove into it, the more I realized that there was really a message here that needed to be shared. And as I worked with teachers with culturally responsive teaching, we started seeing growth with students. I'm not going to say immediately because that doesn't happen, but quickly. And so it was just exciting. It was just exciting, and I just felt like it needed to be shared.
And that's amazing. And one thing that I love about you, Jennifer, is that you're solution oriented. And so I wanted to share that for those who are listening in, and you might think to yourself, hey, I don't know what to write a book about. I don't know where to start. Think about where are you currently? And so when you think about where you are currently, if you see something that needs to be addressed, instead of complaining, waiting on it to come from Washington, D.C. or whatnot, for somebody to give you an answer, why don't you start with yourself? What can you do to improve whatever arena or situation that you're in? And you don't ever know. It could be an opportunity to create a business, a ministry, a nonprofit, whatever it may be for you to be able to create that change yourself. And so with that being said, I know some are wondering, thinking to themselves like, wait a minute, how is she doing that? She's running the business. She has a family life. How in the world does she create content for a book? So if you don't mind, Jennifer, share with the audience with your busy schedule, how you find time to create content for your books.
Sure. So I think what you just said is dead on. I'm thankful enough to have a passion and to be able to spend my days working on that passion, and seeing the need and then being able to have a solution for it. It's like, what better way to spend your days, So the book is one avenue to do that. And so I'm a lifelong learner. I'm always learning. And so I designate time to learn, and then I designate time to write. And whether that is a blog or whether that is a training module or whether that is a book, that is my way of sharing my passion. And it's easy to get caught up in responding to emails and doing the day-to-day tasks that will take up your entire day if you let it. But man, if you are passionate about something, then that has to be your priority, you know. And logistically, one of the things that I did for my schedule, especially in the time that I was writing this book, was that I got up, and the first thing I did before I checked emails, before I did anything else that needed to be done work-wise in my day, is I designated time to write. And so when you have that creative side come out first, it puts you in a proactive path for the day. If you get up and you immediately start responding to people and checking emails and doing that type of checklist, then you're in a responsive path all day, and those tasks will take over. So I set deadlines for myself, and you guys helped with that. Even if I set the deadline, I told you, and then you made me stick to it. And I got up and made it that priority. That first thing in the morning was when I did that work.
Thank you, Jennifer, so much for sharing that. That's a nugget right there, folks. So I'm telling you, most successful people, just like Jennifer, you'll find that they have a morning ritual or a morning routine. And that, hey, don't be reactive. You have to be proactive. That's another gem right there. Don't just sleep on what Jennifer is sharing with you. Don't just get caught up in the words, oh, well, I've heard reactive, I heard proactive. No, you have to live that out, because you're training, you're programming your mind. Without you even knowing it, you're wiring your mind and creating a habit that's going to be detrimental to your success. And you don't even understand that it started with the beginning of your day. So you're already defeated before you even walk out the house, because you haven't programmed yourself the right way. So I'm telling you that I live by what Jennifer just shared as well with my own self. I take time where I don't even check emails. I don't check anything. I dedicate that first portion of the morning to things that are important to me and working on myself. Whether that's working out, prayer, meditation, whatever it is, I make sure that I set my mind right. So by the time I come to the office or anything else, hey, I'm proactive. I'm solution oriented. I'm not crying and whining. Hey, let's get it done. So you want to do that for yourself if you're trying to get that book done. Or you can continue to have excuses. Well, I got a husband. Oh, I got kids. Oh, I got a dog. Well, I'm too old. I'm too young. You have all these excuses. That's why some of the best books are in the local cemetery, because people never got it done. So make sure you take heed to this advice. Now, you're sharing with this. I want to go into the mental portion of this. It's one thing to know that you're talented, one thing to be educated, but it's another thing to write a book. So what gave you the mindset to know, wow, I can actually do this. I'm going to actually do it? Because it's several people that, you run across people all the time that say, you know what, I should write a book one day. They might be at happy hour. They might be kind of cockeyed and tipsy, but at the same time, they might say, you know what, I might write a book. None of our listeners would be at happy hour doing anything like that. But I'm just saying, for the record, for other people out there. But if you share with us, what made you believe that you could write a book when so many have failed at the task?
Sure. So you just asked two questions, and the first thing that you said was, what made you think you could write a book? And the second thing was, what made you decide to do it? And so to the first question, I would say that this is, other than starting my business, this is probably the only other thing that I have stepped out on without knowing for a fact that I could do it. I had no idea what the publishing process was. I like to write. I write to think, but that doesn't mean that other people want to read what I'm writing. So I would say to not wait until you feel like, I know I can do this, or to not wait until you feel like I know all of the steps in order to do it. Because the first time we talked, you're like, okay, well, you're doing this, so just do it. You have to decide if you want to grow or if you want to stay where you are. And if you're comfortable where you are and you want to stay there, then stay there. If you want to grow, then you have to accept that there's risk, there. And so you have to be willing to step out. And I was at a place where I'd gotten very comfortable. I love training. I love working with teachers. It's definitely my wheelhouse, but there's a cap to that. You know, I'm one person. There's only so much that I can do. Only so many places I can go to get this message out. And so this, for me, was my intentional step forward. And it was without knowing that this will ever be published or that this will ever go anywhere. It was just my way of saying, I'm going to take a step towards growth. I'm going to take this risk. I might not be great at it, but I'm going to start. And that's where I started.
She put the Nike swoosh out there on us people, Self-Publishing 30 Days Nation, and my Author Spotlight team, of just do it. Stop trying to figure it all out. You'll never have it all figured out. It's a day by day, step by step process, and you must be willing to get out of your comfort zone, just like Jennifer said to us. And you know what, Jennifer, with that point, and you brought up entrepreneurship, and you also brought up the book, but I want those who are tuned in to pay attention to what Jennifer shared with us. You're either going to stay where you are or you're going to choose growth. But I got news for you, that either you're getting better or you're getting worse. There's no such thing as middle ground or purgatory for you in that particular instance. You have to understand, if you're not creating healthy or successful habits, then you're going the opposite way. It's the polar opposite. It's no middle ground. I'm just going to stay where I'm at. And I'm not saying that you got to grow. And what Jennifer was referring to is like saying, for instance, if you want to stay in a career, that doesn't mean that you have to move up if you're a teacher to a assistant principal or superintendent. It doesn't mean that you have to do that. You can continue to be a teacher. So that's what we're talking about with that. I just want to make sure in all I get in, we get an understanding. But with growth, it forces you to get out of your shell, to be able to jump out of that nest and be the eagle that you were created to be. And that's why you have people with that bah humbug look, because they are not living, or they're not reaching out with growth to reach their full potential. And that's what Jennifer is sharing with us. She chose, I want to reach my full potential. And that might mean that I don't know everything. So many people squander their opportunities because they're not willing to go out. They think they need to know everything. And guess what? What you know right now, you didn't know beforehand. You had to learn it. Everything that you've done in life, you had to have a first time at it. So so you got to think about I like to call it the force of average. The force of average will tell you, well, you don't need to do that. You don't need to go there. You don't need to do this. But somebody needs your story. So what Jennifer is sharing in her book is going to be very helpful to so many people. But they don't care that she hadn't written a book before, but she's tapping into something that needs to be talked about that most people aren't talking about, or they talking about it, but they don't have solutions. So thank you, Jennifer, for sharing that with us. And I just want to ask you this as well. Would you getting the book done, and we know the reason why you did it, the whole nine. Now, the other point that I want to dive into is, what did it mean to you knowing that you actually completed that manuscript, that you actually got it done? So was that a surreal feeling? What did that mean to you when you looked up like, oh my goodness,
yeah,
I think I did it?
Yeah. So, you know, I probably shouldn't say this, if this book doesn't bring me a dime, I sure hope it does, but if I never made any financial gains on this, the personal process of writing this book, on a personal level, I realized a lot of things about myself. Kind of to piggyback on what you were just saying, one of those things is that I'm not a procrastinator. However, if there's something challenging, if I found myself getting stuck on something, man, I did everything else. And I'm a busy person, and so I can make it look like I'm being really busy, right? But I was able to identify that for myself, that like, Jen, this is what you're doing. Look at what you're doing right now. You've put it on your list of things that you need to tackle chapter 3, but you have done the laundry and you have swept and mopped and done 9 other things. She started checking emails too early, I would stay busy, but I was putting it off. And so I realized that about myself. And so once I was able to identify that I was doing that, I use the word empowered because I think that that's a really important piece of what we all want to do. That empowered me to kind of take that control back and say, this is your time to write. You're tackling something challenging today. Sit down and get it done. And being able to do that then spirals into other areas, So this has spiraled into, business-wise, even looking at sales and marketing and things that I'm an educator, So all of that is kind of uncharted territory there. And so when you step out of your comfort zone and you can accomplish something, whether it's good or not, when you accomplish it, it kind of pushes the limit up farther, like you thought here was your limit, and then you get there and now you get to push up, and it just continues to raise. It changes your mindset on that, And so I would say that is the biggest piece of that. Professionally, because this is what I coach and I train on, what this allowed me to do was get really focused on my research, get really focused on my observations and my experience, and then put those things into words. And all that does is give me more clarity when working with teachers. Because again, just like any profession, even with coaching and training, you get in a rut of what you know and what you're comfortable with. And so professionally, this connected so many more dots for me and gave me so much more research and experience with it, because I was being so intentional about growing my knowledge of this topic. So personally and professionally, completing this book has been a huge positive step forward in a lot of different areas.
I love what you brought up, Jennifer, because I've totally felt. That's why you see me. I'm over here in the amen corner out there. I'm hearing over here preaching real good to me, and so I'm just thinking to myself, you are exactly right. And I'm not just saying this because you're on this episode. When I did my first book, when I completed that, everything skyrocketed.
Yeah.
I was a better husband. My business exploded. And it wasn't just because of the books. It was because who I became during that process. Right. Stop making excuses, being intentional, following through what I said I was going to do, because I could have I had a lot, great ideas, but I might get to them here and there and all that. Right. But when I got that, it's like, man, it's like you were a force to be reckoned with because of that. And so for those who are listening, you're right. It's deeper than, I'm just using this as an example, than just a $20 book. It's deeper than being on Barnes & Noble and Amazon and all that on your website. That's great. But who you become during the process, I'm telling you, that ROI of that is priceless. And Jennifer just explained that just so brilliantly when she just brought that up. Now, Jennifer, just share with the audience to how can they connect with you, if you don't mind. Share website, your company. For those, we do have educators who look at this particular podcast and listen in. So how can they connect with you and have you come into their school district or be able to share with them?
Sure. So my website is www.pressing-onward.org. And on that website, you can follow. I'd love for you to follow and give me feedback and have conversations with me on my blogs there. It's primarily about culturally responsive teaching, but it's just sharing experiences with kids and my experiences with kids when I get to go into classrooms, getting to see how they react, what causes them to take what teachers do to bring their success. And so that's definitely one way on that website too. You can connect with me there and connect with me on social media or through a message on that website, and I will definitely get back to you in all of my ways to connect are on there.
Awesome. Well, Jennifer, this has been an awesome episode. I don't even think that you even know how much you have blessed us today and encouraged us with these empowering words that you've given us and strategies. You actually gave us tangible steps. If you implement any of the things that Jennifer said, you will see a different person. You will be in a different world. You'll look up and be like, how in the world did I get here? Oh, the episode with Jennifer Kleiber on the Spotlight. That's what it was, So, that's definitely a first step. But so many people are hindered because of the things that Jennifer brought up. And the sad thing is that they don't understand that it's their mindset. They don't even get it, what you just shared. They don't realize they've just got up, looked at the wrong type of news. They're reading the negative newspapers. They feed. So they come and they wonder, and the world is horrible, and they're wondering why the world is so horrible to them, because that's the beast that they fed. And and so that's still going to be the stronger wolf, so to speak. You fed that wolf of negativity, so that's the one who's going to take charge of your life. And if I want, before we get out of here, Jennifer, if you don't mind, speak to that educator out there, or speak to that person out there who think to themselves, well, it sounds great, risk, all of this, but I don't know if anybody want to hear my story. I can see Jennifer is a business owner. She's already doing consulting. Who would want to hear my story? Could you share with that person who might feel somewhat inferior, or that, I'm not Oprah Winfrey, I'm not Bill Gates, who would want to hear my story? Could you share with them the importance of doing it anyway, sharing the story anyway, because there's somebody out there who needs their story?
Sure. So I think that the first thing to recognize is that authors are people, and that the only thing that separates them from you is that they wrote down what their thoughts and feelings were, and that there are wonderful people like you who will help us bring that book to life. But they don't have to know all of that. All they have to do is get down their thoughts and their ideas. The second thing that I would say, and again, you mentioned that I'm solution oriented, and so that's why I'm going to say this, is that you have to make a plan. For a year, I had decided this is what I'm writing the book on, and even narrowed it down to what I wanted the focus was, and did not start it. And once I started it and I made my plan, then I wrote the book in 2 months. Because I had it there. It doesn't have to take 2 years to get it out. It takes designating time and setting up a plan, and then giving yourself hard deadlines and bringing other people in on that. Tell people, I have this, get in conversations about what your message is with people. Let them know what you're doing, and have that accountability, that by Friday I'm sending this. And then I would say, know that probably, if you're like the majority of people, that it is going to be a risk and you're going to be uncomfortable. And so when that feeling starts to set in, I'm not good enough, or my message isn't strong enough, or all of the negative voices that will come, know that that's a normal part of the process, and that you just keep going with it. And so that doesn't stop you, and then I guess the last thing I would say is to read a lot. If you want to write, then you need to read. And the more you read from the lens of, I'm writing a book, I want to see how other authors are doing it as well, I think the more you'll recognize that you can do it. That you see how things are, how their thoughts are put out there, and it helps you in your writing process. So those are kind of the logistical things I would say that anybody can get started on looking at writing a book.
Man, I'm telling you, y'all have to get this young lady in. I mean, I'm just thinking, I know that she has a niche or area that she covers, but I just would love just to hear her do a keynote or just do another book on just principles for success or something like that, because if man, definitely get the book or whatnot, whether you're in education or not. Definitely would be helpful for all those educators who are listening, those who are superintendents or whatnot. Make sure that you reach out, get a copy for your whole staff, have her come in, but also reach out to her, period, because that was a wealth of knowledge that she shared there or whatnot. But I just want to tell you, I know our time is spent, but just thank you so much for coming on, Jennifer. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Anytime.
Conversation.
Yes, ma'am. For all those who out there, remember that this is the year for your new book. If you won't change, be the change. Be blessed and be great.